I am in Greenwood County, Kansas. And the reason I ended up making this video, or getting ready to make this video, is because just doing some research about this county, it has almost become like a ghost county. It had a population of near 20,000 at one time, and now it's down to 6,000. And that means it's lost, between 60 and 70% of its total population. And a lot of the reason why the county has lost the population is because there was a big oil boom. And so people came here, and then over time that has dwindled. And there's so many ghost towns in Greenwood County. In fact, there's many that I don't even know where they're located. But I'm going to drive around the county, try to find as many as I can, and just maybe talk about what I can find. There's a lot of places there's no information about, that at least that I could find. So maybe anyone who's watching this video knows more about Greenwood County than I do. Obviously, they can put in the comments about some of the communities that I've explored through today. We are in the kind of eastern part of the Flint Hills. I did a video previously about some of the other small towns and ghost towns in the Flint Hills. So this is a very beautiful part of Kansas, and so I'm excited to check it out. I'm gonna kind of go around the county kind of in a roundabout way, and starting here in the Lena Valley Cemetery. And that's the only trace of Lena Valley that I could find. There, when I went to the intersection of where my handy dandy Kansas Gazetteer map says, there's nothing there anymore. And it says that the town existed from 1872 to 1887. What I have found online, not much information at all. But the cemetery has a lot of people that were born in that time frame, and some of them, most of the people here in this cemetery have passed away long ago. There are some newer ones. Some assume they're rural farmers and agricultural people that live in this area that maybe were born when there was, more people here. But yeah, this is the start. This is pretty typical of probably a lot of these places that there's not going to be much left, but the cemetery does give a little bit of clues. Different than Lena Valley, where there wasn't hardly anything left, Lamont still has traces left of kind of probably when it was in its heyday in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This was an important place in the area because it had a railroad that went through here. It was never real big, 100 people or so. And then over time, like most everywhere else in this video, it's just gonna have slowly deteriorated in terms of population. There are quite a few nice homes here, kind of mixed in with the older historic areas. I'm here on a Sunday morning, so there's a couple churches and a lot of cars in the parking lots, so obviously that's significant to the area. Teterville was a company town with the oil industry huge in this area in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and then became a ghost town, and there's nothing remaining, although it is very well known for Teeter Rock. And so it's right here. We're gonna go check it out. Lapland was never very big. The only thing I could find that it was maybe 20 people in the early 1900s, and that the post office closed early in the 1900s and was moved to another town. And the only thing here is a farm at the intersection of where it used to be, but definitely small and no longer here. There's not much left of Thrall except for this building. I'm not sure what it was, but it does have like garage door type thing, so maybe it was a service station of some kind. But yeah, this is really the only thing here. Now it's obviously a place for cattle to graze and hang out. Thrall had kind of two time frames of, I guess, growth and decline. From the 1880s originally into the early 1900s, it had at a time in a post office, and then was closed. And then in the 1920s, kind of like these other oil towns, it had another increase where the post office was reopened, probably a little bit of population here, kind of like a company town like those other places. And then in the 1960s, it was closed again, and now there's nothing left except for just open range and this building. I could not find much information on Burkett, and I'm assuming it's another one of those company towns. And there's a lot of old oil rigs and things like that. There's one right next to the road here that's working, but other than that, it's just a place that had a lot of history and oil. It still has obviously a lot going on with that, but not much information online. So if anybody knows about Burkett, feel free to put it in the comments. I'm walking in what I believe is a dried up Willow Creek, and that's where Willow Valley would have gotten its name from. And it would have been good to have a little settlement here on the water, and there is water not too far from here, but this is all dry right through here. And I don't know much about Willow Valley, except that this was the approximate location right around here. But there were also a couple other towns that were right around here. One of them was Janesville. We're in Janesville Township, and Janesville was created originally kind of a hastily set up town to be the county seat when Kansas became a state. They needed a county seat, and Janesville became that county seat. And then Eureka came along. They ended up moving it to Eureka, and Janesville eventually faded away, and I don't even know where it's at. I've seen some maps from the late 1800s that had it mentioned, but those are not real detailed. May not be roads to even go to where the town used to be. So this is where Willow Valley was. Don't know much about that either. So definitely an area that's kind of wide open and quiet, but very beautiful. The only thing I could find online is that it was started in around 1884 and ended somewhere around the 1950s, and it was a railroad stop it was an important railroad stop, and had a population, that never got past double digits, but I'm not sure why it ended. Maybe it had something to do with oil, but I don't know. That's kind of when a lot of those towns kind of faded here, but I don't see a lot of old oil rigs here. It's just very beautiful area, and there's nothing here anymore. Sitting here in the quiet downtown main street of Virgil. This is a more typical ghost town of like the ones that I've gone to before in previous videos. There used to be 600 people here, and then now that's down into the 40s, and it's one of the official towns of Greenwood County still, but there's not too many people left, and there's certainly a lot of old buildings that have been here for a while, and some that there's a hotel here that says this is the site of the hotel I'm actually sitting on, that's been torn down, obviously. So definitely a cool place if you're ghost town enthusiast, Virgil, Kansas. Quincy, Kansas was at one time, a pretty important, I guess, or much larger place than it is now. Now it's virtually, it's a ghost town. There's a few people I think that probably live here. There's not a lot of buildings, but this church behind me is one of the most impressive old structures that are here. A lot of foliage that has grown over, so it's hard to see a lot of the old buildings that might be in there. But interesting history. This was on the railroad, and it's on a river, a small river, and so made it a really good spot. And there were several, 200-300 people that lived here, had a lot of businesses, and was a growing community. But then the Dust Bowl and the Depression of the 1930s really killed it, and it had a post office until the 1970s, so there were still enough people to warrant that, but not anymore. A couple interesting bank robberies happened. There was one happened here in 1903, of which the robbers got caught in a nearby town, and then in our previous town of Virgil, there was a bank robbery that happened there, and the bank robbers came right through here, and the people shot at the bank robbers, I guess, as they were coming through town, trying to escape, and I guess they did escape as they headed towards Oklahoma. So there was some excitement here in Quincy, Kansas, but not too much excitement anymore. On the map right here is a place called Rocky Ford. I don't know if that was a town or if it's just the name for the area along the creek here, but it's a very, very beautiful area, very, very pretty. And so let's walk around and see what's here. Wow, that was super creepy. So finding out a little bit of more information about Rocky Ford, even though I didn't know anything and I couldn't find anything online. Obviously it was some sort of a community. There's a cemetery that is overgrown with weeds, except for if there's one area that's kind of cut out that leads to half a dozen headstones that all say Sherman on it. So obviously someone probably lives here still and wants to keep the family being able to be visited. Everything else is very overgrown. So the final town we're going to stop in today, as we're running out of daylight here, is Neal, Kansas. And it was a big cattle town in the late 1800s, and then grew, had 100 or so people, had businesses, and just like a lot of these other towns, and then dwindled over time, and there's not much left. There's an old bank building, that's the main old building that's left in the middle of town. In the last few towns, a couple of these towns, I've gotten in conversations with people that lived here, and one of the reasons I haven't gotten through all the places I want to get to today, because I've had these conversations. And really interesting conversation with the guy who lived right next to the bank. He actually owns the building, and his parents were when they were seniors in high school, were the only two seniors in the school, and they married each other. So you get to these little towns and you hear all kinds of stories from the people that live here. buddy?